Let's get started on the serious news here for a second.
A fifth victim by the shooting inside a Kentucky bank, 8 others wounded.
The gunman, a bank employee, was killed in a shootout with police.
Good morning, Robin. And officials have been praising police, their swift response. They say that absolutely saved lives. But even so, given the vicious nature of this attack, even with police officers inside this bank responding within minutes, still 5 people are dead and several others.
Yeah, they responded in 3 minutes, dude. And yet 5 people still died. How's that?
This morning, new details emerging in the deadly Louisville bank rampage. Officials calling this an evil act of targeted violence. At 8:38 Monday morning, authorities say an Old National Bank employee arrived with a rifle, opening fire in a crowded conference room. Authorities say officers exchanged gunfire with the suspect, quickly ending the rampage, killing the suspect.
Shots fired. Shots fired here.
But there were still more than a dozen casualties.
I think ultimately this will maybe get people to come to terms with the reality that, like, cops can arrive on scene immediately. You can have armed personnel on scene immediately, but it still doesn't change the reality that if someone can easily go get a gun, if they're suicidal, if they want to kill people, they're going to be able to get away with it. They're going to do it. They're going to still kill people. So what do? Legislation. That's it. Cops are doing their jobs. They did the right thing. They rushed directly in the line of fire. Okay, I can't believe I'm saying this. This is the second goddamn time in the past month where I'm giving cops a W here. They did the right thing. They're supposed to do exactly that. And they did it. And yet one of them died. And, 5 people total still fucking died. So what's up? It seems like our solutions to the problem of gun violence that Republicans basically dominate every kind of conversation on are ineffective. Seems like maybe there are other countries on the planet outside of America, newsflash, that have been able to figure this shit out. Oh, sorry. 5 killed, including the shooter. The cop's still alive. I was wrong.
Jim Tutt, Josh Barrick, Juliana Farmer, Deanna Eckert, and Tommy Elliott, a close friend of Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear.
Tommy Elliott helped me build my law career, helped me become governor, gave me advice on being a good dad.
What are you going to do about it? I know he's a Democrat. I know. He's a Democrat with a Republican state legislature. What is he going to do about it? Nothing. He can't do shit. Or you think I think Democrats actually have a fucking solution to this? They don't. They don't have nothing.
He was recently given notice he was going to be fired, and he left a note to his parents and friends indicating he planned to shoot up the bank. 2 former bank employees tell us they're devastated. They say they knew the shooter and described him as a friendly young man, and they saw no red flags.
It's mind-boggling to hear who did it.
Mayor Craig Greenberg, who himself is already a survivor of a separate workplace shooting last year, vowing to work every hour, every day of his term to stop gun violence.
We have to take action. Today is a day for love and support to the victims, for supporting our officers and doctors and nurses who are the heroes and first responders.
The ER doctors literally said that because mass shootings happen so much that they immediately knew how to do trauma response in this regard. At this point, it's basically like a separate field where, it's just like, oh yeah, no, don't worry. Oh, we got another mass shooting. Come step right in. We got it. Yeah, they're turning into like fucking combat medics, dude. It's crazy. They're like, we're prepared. Definition of insanity is how America handles gun control. Mass shooting is not even a code red anymore. It's so routine, man. You just got to learn how to fucking dodge bullets at this point, At this point, there's nothing. It just feels so silly. Oh, here's the one, of course, permanent aspect of like the coverage. Daily Beast wrote this article, of course. Breaking, 23-year-old Connor Sturgeon was a former varsity hoop star and finance grad turned banker who had reportedly been fired from his job in recent days. One former friend describes him as a popular kid in high school. It's always the same, bro. This is how the photos be looking at headlines when a white man kills his entire family. That Zach Fox tweet is just permanent. It's like permanently stapled to my fucking mind. Hey, look at this sweet dude, bro. Look at him. He's so sick. You guys don't understand. In the courts, he was like crazy. There was also a part of that story, apparently, though, that at least I find interesting. Part of that fucking story was that he was so fucking concussed while playing basketball that like he had to wear a helmet or some shit. Look at this. You think that might be a factor? He says Sturgeon always wore a helmet during basketball games because he has suffered so many concussions. The big thing I keep going back to is that the first year of high school, we played football together in 8th grade. He was out most of the year because he had multiple concussions. Then he had a couple more in high school, he said. I'm not saying it's the cause, but I always think back to that. There were times I'd wonder, will this catch up to him? but never in this way. He's the last person I'd expect would do this. I don't know how the fuck he got concussed so much playing basketball, which is wild, but the gender pronouns, right? Bro, that's the other part that's so stupid. The gender pronouns thing is so dumb. Everybody has gender pronouns. And on LinkedIn, it's automatic. He didn't just like put his gender pronouns up there. He's not trans. He's just a dude. He's just a cishet white guy. Just like literally the overwhelming majority of mass shooters. The people, ironically, that were talking shit and saying, oh, it's the gender terrorists again. They have the same he, him pronouns on their LinkedIn accounts. It's so fucking stupid. It just like automatically places it on there, you idiot. Those are your pronouns. Yeah, I mean, here, this is it. This is the fucking slam dunk. Colin Rugg, he, him, owner of Trending Politics. Oh my God, that's so crazy. You understand that you're fucking advocating for like gender abolition, right? Like you're doing the same thing that transvestigators do. You failed like basic elementary grammar, and now on top of that, you're making it everybody else's problem. What you don't understand is like you're thinking that like everyone and anyone is trans now. You're like, oh man, everyone and anyone is trans. You're doing the thing that I've been calling out for a couple years now, which is that the real mental illness is TERFs, is transphobia. It rots your fucking brain. It rots you down to the very core. It changes you as a person, and you literally start seeing trans people everywhere. Everywhere you go, you're like, is that person trans? Is this person trans? You start transvestigating. Ultimately, until you think maybe I'm trans, like, am I trans? Was I trans at an early age and I didn't even fucking know it? It's like brain rot, dude. It's so stupid. Leave it alone. Hey, I understand the racist component of the article, but don't you think there's something newsworthy about the fact that unlike most mass shooters, it seems like a lot of people knew this guy, were genuinely shocked? Are you kidding me? For every fucking mass shooter that like the FBI was like, we had him on our radar, there are mass shooters where you're like, what the fuck happened? We had no idea. I think you're just too focused on like seeing mass shooters recently. You have a recency bias there where you think like, wow, I can't believe that, we definitely knew that it was happening. We definitely knew it was inevitable to happen. For every story like that, there's plenty of fucking stories. There's probably even more stories where you're like, I didn't even know that this would happen. They say that all the time. What you need to understand is that it's not it's not a uncertainty. It is a certainty. Mass shootings are going to happen in the United States of America. They're basically treated like it's basically like a natural disaster. It's a natural catastrophe that is supposed to happen. And in some respects it is. If you have this many guns, if you have more guns than you have people in this country in circulation, fellas, is it trans to be obsessed with hating trans? No, that's not what I'm saying. People misunderstand me when I said that. I didn't say all transphobic people are trans. I'm saying that if you keep transvestigating and you think that like your fucking mom and dad might be trans, you're inevitably going to start thinking maybe you were trans without your knowledge. Okay, the final stage of like losing your mind to that degree, and there are varying degrees of this, is when you think like maybe I was trans at an early age before I started realizing that I started becoming an adult. Yeah, it's transphobia induced schizophrenia, the gender theory of having a total psychotic break. Yeah, and the solution is really fucking simple. The solution is so simple. It's just literally don't be transphobic. Live and let live. That's it. I'm not even kidding, dude. You fucking get into this trans stuff, it's so scary. You just like go down this weird pipeline of like becoming more and more obsessed with what the fuck trans people are doing. And you end up, screaming about Budweiser beers and all this other shit. And ultimately you become this like weirdo who thinks everyone is technically secretly trans. All right, let's hear what fucking Fox News is saying about it, though.
An update on the shooting that happened at that funeral home in Northeast Washington, D.C. Police confirming 4 individuals.
Oh, sorry, this is a different one. Fuck. Oh, yeah, this is another mass shooting. God damn it.
Who do these types of crimes. I mean, they need to be ultimately held accountable for their actions. It's unfortunate that someone would be so brazen to do such an act, let alone at a funeral. I mean, how low can you be of a human being to target other people at a funeral?
Bro, I can't believe it's a new low to shoot up a funeral. Bro, we shoot up schools in this country, like kindergartens. You know what I mean? Like that's no, we already are at that low. I don't know where you could go that's lower than a kindergarten. You know what I mean? Like, we shoot people at schools. We shoot people at churches. I guess the maternity ward, like, that's it. That's the lowest. Like a child's hospital, you're like just killing children at like a fucking center for like leukemia treatment or something. I don't know. Now, the reason why Fox News is covering this is because Washington, D.C. is very black. This could be a gang-related form of violence too. I don't know. That's the reason why they are hyper-focusing on this, for the record. So make no mistake. Gun violence is still gun violence, regardless of who is doing it. That is my take on the matter. But just remember that, like, there is a reason why Fox News would be like, we have to cover this. This is like,
Build your loved one.
The other one in Louisville, that kind of breaks our narrative. So we got to find one that actually reinforces the narrative. It's like crime running rampant in liberal cities. Crime also running, it's lawlessness in liberal cities. Out of control Democrat inner city narrative, exactly. Paired up with shifting away basically from the soft target, hard target shit. At this point, I think like the only way to stop mass shootings is by hoping that there's a counter mass shooting happening in the vicinity, so the mass shooters start fighting one another. You know what I mean? I'm calling it, dude. There's gonna be two conflicting mass shootings that occur eventually. It has to. It has to. It literally has to. In the United States of America, it happens so frequently. Like, there are so many people that are like, oh, I survived this mass shooting, and now here I am again surviving another mass shooting. It happens so frequently that inevitably it's going to converge. There's going to be like two different mass shootings happening in like the similar vicinity, and you're going to have like them fight one another or some shit.
All right, so the police there revealing and reiterating that they believe this was a targeted attack, and revealing a few more details about the funeral that had just been let out, at which these 4 people were shot, one of them killed. The loved one that they were there honoring at the funeral home was one that died from gun violence, and they were fearful to the point that something could happen, that they asked for additional police presence there. But still, a gunman was able to carry this out.
Did the police presence actually come through? Did they actually have, I don't understand. Did I misunderstand that part? Did they already have cops on scene at the funeral? So it's still in it, and the mass shooting still occurred. Almost like hard target, soft target narratives are fucking stupid, because no matter what happens, there was a mass shooting at a fucking bank, dude. It's a hard target. Also, mass shootings happen on fucking military bases, dude. I can't even think of a harder target than a motherfucking military base. What do you mean? What the fuck do you mean? Like, what do you, they got tanks there, bro. It doesn't get harder than that. If this happened in a state Congress or the federal Congress, laws would get passed so fast. You're wrong. This is the United States of America. It did. A congressional baseball shooting, a congressional baseball game was shot up by a dude with an AR-15. Steve Scalise was shot in the ass. He needs to piss into a fucking bag for the rest of his goddamn life. We may or may not have a dick still. Literally the 3rd highest ranking Republican in fucking Congress, and nothing happened. And the guy who got shot possibly had his dick blown off, which, by the way, 6 years ago now, holy fuck. That guy is still very much pro-guns and against gun control.
Now the search is on for who did this. We initially reported that there was an initial report about a green vehicle being seen leaving the scene. D.C. police were asked, was this a drive-by shooting? They say they don't know. They're asking for any community members to come forward with any information, any witnesses who might have.
A new study came out that police are actually horrifically bad at solving violent crimes. By the way, worse than we previously thought. I forget what the exact numbers are. And those numbers get infinitely worse when you factor, or when you separate, black and brown or poor neighborhoods and communities. Now, that might come as a shock to absolutely zero people in this community. Obviously, it's less shocking than the top of the hour ad break coming exactly at 1 p.m. Look at any state crime reports. Living in Austin, they have like an average of 30% clearance for all crimes and worse for violent ones. Yeah, they are really, really bad. It's even worse than we previously thought. And especially if you separate it by black and brown neighborhoods. Part of it is because in black and brown neighborhoods, and the same principle goes, the same principle stands for sanctuary cities, and why they were actually originally advocated for by law enforcement, was because people don't want to collaborate with the cops or cooperate with the police because they're understandably fearful of violent like some kind of violent reaction from the cops against themselves, not by others who are going to get shot because they spoke to the cops or anything like that. Because like the grandma, the black grandma that fucking lives in the same house for the past 50 years, is not going to get fucking killed by a gang member or anything. It's because she's understandably fearful of police fucking it up and arresting the wrong person. You know what I mean? There's plenty of examples as to why that attitude is noticeable and understandable. Is this it? Study. No association between diversification of U.S. Yep, this is it. Thank you. You found it. Study. No association between diversification of U.S. police departments and clearance rates of crimes against minorities. This was one of the studies that I was talking about. Along with high rates of crime relative to other developed nations, the United States crime clearance rates, the rates at which crimes are solved, are alarmingly low. One way to raise the crime clearance rates is to diversify police departments. Nope, doesn't matter. A new study examined the effect of diversification of police departments on clearance of aggravated assaults in U.S. police agencies. None of the measures of representation studied were significantly associated with clearance of victims' assaults. The study, by researchers at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, appears in Criminology and Public Policy. Less than half of crimes in the United States are cleared, explains Aki Roberts, associate professor of sociology at UWM, who led the study. Citizen cooperation in crime investigations can help to lead to arrests, which raises the rates of crime clearance. But citizen engagement with police and minority communities tend to be low. Now, this also, this is a weird study overall. One thing to mention is that crime clearance rates in wealthy neighborhoods where people are, cooperating with the police are also, not very high, for the record. But having said that, there is a very real reason as to why people in minority neighborhoods do not cooperate with the police, regardless of whether the cops are black or not, because they're still cops. So if the same fucking guy who's like, well, I mean, dude, not to push the go watch We Run the City on HBO narrative one more time, but it's shown perfectly when the fucking detective shows up on the scene of a murder and he's like, oh, I'm a detective, we're different. And the old lady's like, no, you're not. You're still a fucking cop. What are you talking about? If the group of individuals that you are running with are a organized militia force that is oppressing and violently oppressing your neighborhood, then yes, you being a detective in that circumstance is still not going to change the reality when you're talking to someone. I'm sorry, but your argument is hot garbage. If someone wanted to report a murder, they could call the police anonymously. It's a no snitch culture, bro. Stop reaching. Yeah, no, you're right. You're so right. I'm sorry. You're actually right. It's because there's no snitch culture from rap music, which leads 75-year-old black grandmas to engage in no snitch culture, which also weirdly enough exists in immigrant communities as well. I wonder if the nature of policing and the nature of federal law enforcement in the form of ICE, for example, has to do with something where there is not enough collaboration or not enough cooperation with law enforcement. It's got to be the lean that the 75-year-old grandmas that are fucking sitting in their houses are sipping on while they listen to rap music, right? Is that what you're going to say? You have no kids. I do. My top priority is their safety. This means that I pay for schools heavily protected by armed security, that I own firearms to protect them too. We can disagree without accusing each other of being indifferent to kids dying, or rational people can, at least. Yeah. Everyone else, famously, everyone that advocates for more gun control, famously don't have kids. Only Ben Shapiro has had a child in the history of the United States of America. Very good. Oh, holy fuck. This is terrifying. U.S. murderers stand a 50% chance of getting away with it, new report finds. We're on the verge of being the first developed nation where the majority of homicides go unclear, it says Thomas Hargrove, founder of the Murder Accountability Project. Real W murder moment for America, you know? Dude, I'm not even scared. It's an action game. It's an action game. People are dumb. Oh, God, he looks so scary. Ah! Ah! How do I run away? I'm doing a civil asset forfeiture here. Oh! Oh! Where mama at? Where mama at? Where mama at? Where mama?